The meeting of the Public Safety Committee is now called to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Boyd.
Present.
Alderman Vaccaro. Alderman Cone. Alderman Ornowitz. Alderwoman Hubbard. Alderman Kotar.
Here.
Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Muhammad.
Present.
Alderwoman Boyd.
Here.
Chairman Kennedy.
Here.
President Reed. 5 present.
Would you please excuse Alderman Ornowitz, Vaccaro, Spencer, and Cone? They asked to be excused.
Noted.
Thank you. We'd like to thank all of those who came out this morning, who's taken time out of your schedule to be here and to hear this committee hearing today. The committee is hearing resolution number 78 that is sponsored by Alderman Muhammad. He will come forward and first discuss the resolution and the various aspects of it. And understand that the sponsor of the resolution has several individuals that he would like to also speak on it. So we'll begin with the sponsor in his description and review of the resolution. If you can come forward to the podium.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning to all the members of the Public Safety Committee. I thank you all for being here on this Thursday morning. Resolution number 78 is fairly simple. It's basically asking and requesting SLDC in its LRA division to come up with a comprehensive plan to sell properties for $1 with neighborhoods with high vacancy. When you look all throughout the city of St. Louis, I want to make sure I have my numbers straight. I see the LRA director is here. When you look throughout the city of St. Louis, we have roughly 11,000 vacant or LRA properties. I believe that includes public and private. Am I correct? Sure.
I'm Laura Costello with LRA. The LRA has about 12,500 parcels, and then if you double that, that's the amount of vacant land in the city of St. Louis, about 21. About 22,000 parcels.
About 20.
About 22,000 parcels, and the LRA owns about 12,500, and about 3,000 of those are actual structures.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So roughly 12,000. And we have to come up with a comprehensive way, in a unique way, in an innovative way to get these properties out of the city's land bank and get them to the hands of people who will actually rehab them, who will live in them, and who will make our communities better in a more decent and safe place to live. And that's exactly what Resolution 78 is asking for. This same legislation or this same idea has been done in other cities. It's been done in other cities, including Baltimore and also right up the road, Kansas City. And it has worked to a certain degree. What we can do in St. Louis, if we can look at these legislations and look at the various factors of them, we can pinpoint exactly what we need to do, how we need to do it in the best creative way to get it done. So it's just asking LRA to sell properties for $1. It's asking the LRA Commission and SLDC to work with developers, interested home buyers, in getting these properties out, turn them around, and this is the only way that we can solve the vacancy problem in St. Louis, and specifically North St. Louis. I have no further remarks, Mr. Chairman. I will entertain any questions if the committee members have any.
You still have 3 or 4 individuals that you want to testify?
Yes.
Okay. Let's first go to questions from the sponsor. Alderman Boyd, any questions?
I just want to be clear. Laura, maybe you might want to step back up to the microphone. What I heard was 12,500 parcels, 3,000 structures, or 3,000 buildings. Is that correct?
Yes.
And where was the 20-some thousand number?
Can't do math.
Okay, gotcha.
You know, we have 12,000 vacant buildings and parcels. There's another 12,000 of private.
Gotcha. Okay, you might as well stay up there, Laura. Quick question. So remind us how LRA is funded.
We are funded through the sale of our properties. Thank you. We receive no general revenue. We do have a CDA work program that assists us with our maintenance crew and the grass cutting and the board up.
Okay.
But other than that, we rely on the sales of our properties and assistance from the other agencies being St. Louis Development Corporation. And then, like I said, CDA, we do have a couple work programs with them for the maintenance of our properties.
And what's the current budget for LRA?
I don't know what the current budget is. I can tell you our annual expenses is $750,000 a year on board up and plywood and the maintenance team, $225,000 a year to forestry to cut our grass, $385,000 a year for insurance, and then we have a staff of about 9 individuals that you know, assist with the sale of the properties. We get about 60 properties per month out of our inventory that we close on and sell and get back into the private sector.
Okay. If the sponsor would step back to the mic. Alderman, have you done any research across the country as far as what other, I heard you say there are other land bank entities that are doing the dollar sales. Do you know how they're funded?
Some are funded differently. I guess St. Louis is a little bit unique because we are our own county as well. But when you look at other LRA land banks or public buildings that's in other cities that are under municipal control, it's a little different because it's actually under their county control, not exactly their city. So in the city of St. Louis, LRA being a division or a city agency, it's a little bit different and unique. So it wouldn't be comparable at all.
Well, it's just for us, it doesn't matter who funds them, but I mean it does. I'm curious if Kansas City, for example, has a land bank entity. Is it funded the same way LRA for the city is funded, or is it funded through general revenue?
It's funded through their county legislator, Jackson County.
Okay,
Where
so
that money comes from, I do not know. I have not done the exact studying. I have only done the studying that they have done as it relates to implementing the program that I'm trying to implement here in the city.
right, but I think if municipal government is funding a municipal agency, it's quite different than if an agency is self-funding.
Well, if we're talking about funding and finances, then probably so, but I'm not talking about funding or finances. I'm talking about the rehabilitation of almost over 10,000 vacant buildings in the city. I'm not talking about funding, Alderman.
Right, but I would think that we would want to be considerate on how an agency is funded if we're going to make a decision to ask them to sell property or assets for less than what they traditionally sell it, which may negatively impact how they function.
I don't see a negative impact. I mean, it's costing the city more with these vacant buildings being in the city's land bank. What is the negative impact, Alderman?
Okay, so let me just for clarity's sake, Laura, let me ask you this. So you said LRA is funded basically, some of it is some grants, right? I mean, from SLD, from Community Development Agency, right?
Yes. Yes.
How much is that?
$750,000 a year.
Okay, and how's the rest of the agency funded?
The other expenses for LRA through the sale of our properties.
Okay, and typically on
We
average,
operate at a negative.
so on average, how much does it cost for LRA to operate annually?
I can't do math on my feet now, Alderman, but we say 1.8 million.
1.8 million, and basically, if we take 750,000 out of that, that means that's over $1 million that potentially you hope to generate through sale of assets.
Right, right. And
But
like
you
I say,
don't.
we sell about 60 properties a month, close on about 60 properties a month. We take about 80 offers a month, and we make about 35,000 to 50,000 a month on the sale of the properties.
And if you sold properties for $1, how would that impact you?
The difference is probably the amount of board ups that we could do. We're totally open to doing a program and getting these back out. We think we do a pretty good job already of getting these back out to the public, but we agreed to work with the alderman and come up with the program. My only worry, I tell people when we want $1,000 for a home, for a house, we want $1,000, and they say that they can only pay $500. I always say, well, that's 4 board ups that someone's not going to have.
Okay. Let me ask you this, because I've been alderman for 15 years, and I've seen a few of these. Typically, how often do you get properties back that you have sold?
Not very often.
Okay.
We record a right of reentry when we sell a property, and individuals have 18 months to fix these properties up. About 85% of those are sincere, they do the job, and they may need more time at the end of the 18 months, and we certainly give it. There's a small percentage that don't do anything. They either are trying to flip it or they abandon it. And when we send them a quit claim asking them for the property back, all but 2 times that I know, they've agreed to do it.
Okay. Have you found over the years that some property come back to you in a tax sale?
Yes, I have, especially when we sell in large. Someone comes in and they want 25 properties, and we try and convince them just to do 2 or 3 buildings at first and then come back. Those come back, and unfortunately, it takes about 5 years for those to come back into our inventory. Usually at that point, we have to put them on the demolition list.
Okay. I think the Dollar House program is a neat program. I believe the house I grew up in on Emerson and Lillian, my parents got for $1 or less than $100 or something like that. So I know it can work. I just want to make sure that if we put something in place that LRA doesn't go under, because we can't afford staff to, maintain it and or process the paperwork. And if we can't board it up, that's going to be a concern for residents in my neighborhood, just like cutting grass. If we cut grass only twice a year or summer, and then we go down to only cutting grass once,
Right.
that is a huge negative impact. So I would hope that we can find additional sources of revenue to maybe augment, some of the revenue that may be lost at selling houses for $1. Thank you. No further questions.
Alderman Kotar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess this question is for the sponsor. I'm just curious, as part of your research on this, have you talked to the lending community, banks and credit unions, specifically about, if folks are able to acquire some of these houses for $1, will there be construction loans available? Can they be serviced in time to get this work done within, I guess, the time frames you're proposing?
Hey, thank you, Alderman, and I believe the director also wants to answer that question. Yes and no. I have had unofficial conversations with numerous banks and lending partners that will be willing to help with the revitalization of North City and other high vacancy neighborhoods throughout the city. But also with this plan that we're trying to implement, there is some requirements. We're not expecting anyone who has no source of income and no reliable income to come in and buy a house for $1 and expect them to get it up to par within 18 months, whether that's the exterior code or interior code. So there are definitely some restrictions. It's stated in the resolution in the language. But I think that's part of an ongoing conversation. And also when I met with different banks, more specifically a bank that is in my ward. I only have one bank in my ward, that being Commerce. They said they would like to see actual legislation or an ordinance passed before they begin any real changes as it relates to lending to people in poor communities like mine.
Further, thanks.
Alderwoman Boyd.
Good morning, everybody. Alderman Muhammad, my question that I have, and I keep hearing about what is cost of LRA in regards to the program that they have now with people purchasing properties. The question that I'm having is a twofold, because I see neighborhoods that have been in my ward that are pretty much stable, and so now the vacant properties are popping up. And so I think what the challenge is from the people in my community, and I don't know about other communities, or people that start on the properties and then they can't finish the properties. So now they're in a catch-22 because the people surrounding their property value, they're losing it. And so when you said about the banks lending the money, that has an impact on them getting the loans because the banks are not giving the money out. So if this is passed and they go by and get the dollar house, so how is it going to justify the ordinary citizen that figure, well, I can get this house for $1 and I can fix it up, but I can't get any loans or anything to fix the properties up that I'm purchasing?
No,
Because they're not going to make the 18 months, because I know LRA checks to make sure they have some backup money, but a lot of times those properties have set for so long, and what it's going to cost them to fix it, they're going to have to go to a lender to get it, to get it repaired. So how is that going to help them? Because it's going to discourage them. And so then we'll be back in the same situation with an abandoned property.
So, and again, that's why we have to find innovative ways to get these properties out of our land bank. In my ward alone, and the LRA director has worked with me to make sure this happened. We have sold in the past, since I became alderman, we have sold 13 homes in my ward under LRA. And out those 13 homes, none of them qualify for any lending from banks or any lending partners. They did it all on their own, and these homes are up and stabilized, and people are living in them, or they're close to being livable. I think people have the assets, any income to do these homes on their own. It's all about working with them to do it, giving them a time frame to do it in, and just making sure that we are doing our part on the city's end to continuously check on buildings, to continuously check building codes, which is why we need to make sure we give more resources to the building commissioner. But I don't think that as a city, in our situation, that we can say, well, since there are going to be so many different barriers, since there's going to be what can be perceived as a discouraging process, we cannot just sit back and let it happen. In this legislation or this resolution is asking the city to do something, and it's calling our LRA to sell these properties. Now, once we get this resolution passed, once we get actual ordinance set in place, then I think the next step is finding innovative ways for funding, finding innovative ways to make sure that we can help people who want to live back in the city. Because if we do not encourage people to live back in the city, our population is going to continue to decline. People are going to continue to go out to St. Charles or to St. Louis County, while St. Louis City's population is steadily dropping and falling. So we have to do something to encourage people to move back to this city, to move back to wards like me and yours, the 27th or the 22nd or the 18th. People are steadily leaving North St. Louis. What are we going to do to fix this problem? And this resolution is asking the city to do something. It's not perfect, I will agree. But no, I cannot think of any legislation that is perfect. I cannot think of any government intervention or government plan that has been perfect yet. This is only a step moving forward.
So this is my question. What's the difference from the $1 to the 1,000?
It's encouraging. It's encouraging, exactly what it is. Being completely real.
So the properties that's $1 are going to look different than the properties that's 1,000? Because to my understanding,
The
LRA
difference is
said
not-
that's the cream of the crop, the 1,000. So how they gonna put the price on the dollar? How they gonna justify them to say it's $1? Is everything gonna be $1?
No, I wouldn't imagine that, and I don't think that any homes in LRA stock is the cream of the crop, or at least not in my neighborhood. This program is simply encouraging people to move back. What we often find, and I believe that every alderman finds the same issue, regardless of south or north wards. What we all find is people say LRA makes it difficult to buy homes, or it's a discouraging process. That may be so, but these barriers are set in place to get the homes in the best hands. But what we got to do still is make sure that we are selling homes to people who want to live in the city. Make sure that we are selling homes to the senior citizen next door who's tired of living next to a vacant building, or selling homes to the local barbershop owner who's right down the road who wants to move in the city. That's what this program does.
Okay.
That complete you?
That's it.
Mr. President, do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions. I just want to thank the sponsor for bringing forth this resolution. We know for years it's been very difficult to find ways to move these, these LRA properties. And we also know that lenders aren't lending on a lot of these properties. So this appears to be a way that allows the properties to begin to move, to get through the barrier of the lenders freezing some of the new homeowners out. So I think it's an encouraging program, and I'm looking forward to it. What's the process once the resolution, if and when the resolution is adopted, what's the process for working with LRA to build out the final program and what it looks like, and how you're going to ratify that program once it's built out?
That process begins the minute this resolution passes. I will be in the director's office in about 30 minutes if this resolution passes, and we will be finding a way. That's okay. Otis, it's okay, right? He left out. There he goes. It's okay, right?
Yeah.
If this resolution passes, because this is something that we need to do urgently.
And it
It'd
just
be
becomes an official.
developmental process and developmental stages to come up with a real formulated plan.
And then then I would assume LRA would come back and debrief the board on the final program, and then there'll be an opportunity for at least this committee or committee chairman and members of this committee to weigh in on any tweaks to the program before it goes into effect. Is that correct?
Absolutely, Mr. President. Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
I believe she was.
Yes, yeah, we're definitely open, and he will be in my office in about half an hour. But we are definitely open, and we're always open to new ideas to get these back on the tax rolls. I just wanted to mention something that starting last April, we started a speaker series through SLACO, through Northside, Old North, all different Rehabbers Club, Investors Club, et cetera. And it became kind of a tag team with the sheriff, who talks about how these properties end up to begin with, abandoned, and then the LRA, who ends up with the properties that no one wants and no one purchases at the tax sales, and then a tax sale attorney who talks about the process of getting these titles cleaned up, and this is all part of the vacancy effort that we've worked on. But we typically take in about 500 to 600 properties a year, unwanted properties that no one purchased at tax sale. And in this year's tax sale, the first tax sale, we took in 16, the second, 85, and the third, 86 properties, and that's unheard of. And that means that the public is now becoming aware that they can go to these tax sales and purchase them themselves. But and there's 2 tax sales left, so this will be a record year of the public going to buy the properties first before they come into our inventory. So just wanted to mention that.
Go right ahead, Alderman.
Okay. Well, I'll answer a follow-up question as relates to when you deed a property over. So according to the regulation, or the resolution, it says they would have to live in it for 5 years.
That's a proposal?
That's proposed. Okay, but let's say it's 2 years, whatever the number is.
Yes.
And then they sell it. So they bought it for $1, and then they turned around and sold it in 2 years for $2,500. How do we, get compensated for trying to work with a program in good faith, and someone basically just pulled a fast one and flipped it?
Right. If the property was flipped at a title company and it was a legitimate, they sold it and they got the title work, the title company would call us and say, here's your lien, will you release it? And we go and look at it, and it's not been fixed up, and we say, no, we won't release it. If I hand you a quitclaim deed right now for a property, there's no way we would know unless the neighbors tell us. The neighbors usually tell us.
Okay.
But when it's flipped without any proper paperwork, there's not any way
Okay,
to get the property
thanks.
back.
Mr. President?
As part of the process for selling LRA properties within a particular ward, I think it was classification C or whatever, you would need a letter from the alderperson.
No,
you're not going to?
Yeah, no, it doesn't require a letter from the alderman. It does require the commissioners. So if you look at the state statute, we are to categorize every one of our properties, and that would be us going to the commissioners, LRA commissioners, right? When I came to LRA, there were thousands of properties classified C, so we called every single alderman and went through it with them.
Okay.
And made sure they were okay with us taking it out of classification C and selling these properties.
That complete you?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have the president. That means we officially can establish a quorum. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll again? We need to establish a quorum.
Alderman Boyd,
Here.
Alderman Vaccaro, Alderman Cone, Alderman Ornowitz, Alderwoman Hubbard, Alderman Kotar,
Here.
Alderwoman Spencer, Alderman Muhammad,
Present.
Alderwoman Boyd,
Present.
Chairman Kennedy,
Here.
President Reed. Have 6 present.
With that, we have a quorum. The sponsor, did you still have your 3 individuals, others you wanted to speak on the bill, on the resolution? Would you come? When you come forward, you just please identify yourself by your name and your address.
Good morning. My name is Todd Ill. I want to thank Mr. Chairman Reed, members of the committee, President Lewis Reed. I want to thank you all today for giving me this opportunity to speak on this issue. I also want to thank Alderman Muhammad for identifying a problem and being able to have the courage to apply a solution to that problem. You know, most of our major real estate developers have access to SLADC, low-interest loans, and they get buildings and land through acquisition. But unfortunately, most of us in the community don't have the capacity nor have the means to be able to access those loans. And as a result, it leaves us out of the loop. This resolution brings the homeownership possibilities a little closer to the individual. It provides an opportunity for wealth building. It saves the cities in hundreds of thousands of dollars in maintenance fees, acts as a crime deterrent. And I think this is the right direction for the city to start moving in. In addition, we made mention about, I heard you talk about funding. Know that Stephen Bank gave SLDC $1 million to help with the minority contractors, and First Bank gave them $600,000 to help with community developments to satisfy the Community Reinvestment Act. We hope that Alderman Reed and Chairman Kennedy would work with the Alderman Muhammad to see if we get the financial institutions to do the same for residents as a means of providing funding sources to satisfy the Community Reinvestment Act. This is a good project. I think it's good and healthy for the city, And I want to thank Alderman Muhammad for doing an excellent job. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of our speaker? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Alderman Muhammad, you're next. Please come forward, just identify yourself, and then give us your address for the record.
How you doing? My name is Tory Russell, resident of the 21st Ward. I just want to convey probably what most of the community is saying and what they said over the last 2 or 3 weeks when we took it to about 5,000 residents over the last 4 or 5 months. We live in a community, like has already been stated. The houses are boarded up, and that costs the city money, but those boards come down. And we live next door to those boarded up or supposedly boarded up homes, and they do become a safety hazard. At night, you are fearful really to allow your kids to be in the backyard. When your children go out to school in the mornings, because you know the time is going to shift and our babies are going to be outside at 4:30, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning and won't be much light out there. And those people who are seeking refuge or having fun or doing whatever they do in those vacant buildings will be out there, and our children and our mothers and our grandmothers will be at risk. You know, we could go back and forth about money. We could talk about how much the city spends on this and that. I just saw a campaign last year where people went around the entire city talking about the city loses $7 million a year just in property tax, $4 million of that just being in North City alone. I'm not an economist. I know if you sell 100 homes at $1,000, we'll be able to make enough money for at least enough people to be able to stop boarding up homes and not cutting the grass, because that's what's actually happened. And so the city budget may say that they board it up and cut the grass, but it doesn't happen. And so the residents that are probably standing behind you, some of our elders who out there, they will pay the brothers and sisters in the community to cut the grass when the city does it. Sometimes we have went out and reboarded up homes, worked with the homeless people who are living in the homes. We have enough community organizations, enough clergy and churches, enough hard-working contractors, young brothers and sisters who want to become developers, educators, teachers, nurses in this community right now. No, Bank of America and any other places may or may not create a program. But we have enough credit unions and we have enough elders and things in the community with these accounts that can fund some of these projects. Again, I don't know everything about economy, but I know there's enough people right behind me who go through these homes, who want these homes, who need these homes. That's right, we can tweak all these things. I know it looks like these people who are small business owners right here, some of these people are waiting for the 100 or so people or 50 or so people you see in here. It was the same amount of people walking up outside, very hopeful that this dollar home, and we're not talking about just the historically black people, we're talking about Africans and Caribbeans and Bosnians and some of these immigrants that are coming to this country as well. We have to create a pathway for those people as well as young professionals and the young, second, third generation people who live in the peripheral now. The same people who come to the ball games would like to live closer than a Metrolink stop to their ball game. They come to our festivals. They come to our restaurants and business districts. They come have fun and they go to Ballpark Village. They go to Washington Avenue and they spend lots of money. We know we have enough young professionals in the peripheral through U City, Paysdale, Pine Lawn, Northwoods. We can go on and on. even residents who now live as far out as Winsfield and St. Charles trying to find that piece of home, if they can pay $8, $9, $1,000 a month for rent, I believe they can afford a home improvement loan. We can't control the lending, but we have enough credit unions and enough young professionals standing and sitting behind us right now to fund this. It doesn't have to. We don't have to sell all the homes at one time. We can create all the processes that we want, and it has to make fiscal sense going into a $1.1 billion budget year. But if we have money to improve public safety and other things, we know for a fact that living next door across the street from vacant buildings, lots with the grass as tall as you, and losing a voting base, we may be down under 300,000 by the year 2020. This is a bustling city built on ingenuity and blue-collar labor. We can build that once again. Thank you.
How you doing, everyone? My name is Baron Wilson. I stay at 4545 Ruskin, and I am a brick mason. First of all, one of the best. Thank you. And Mr. Boyd, you know me. And what I see is happening is with these brick structures. Oh, I need to sit down?
Yeah, this was not an open mic.
Oh, I'm sorry, brother. I'm sorry. I thought you...
Yeah, the sponsor had some specific people, but come on and finish.
Oh, I mean, I'm in the neighborhood. I mean, you know, I'm doing work in the neighborhood. I think I'm a good candidate to talk about this because I'm preparing.
I'm sure there are a number of people out there that...
I'm repairing all the the home that's falling.
Yeah, but so I can explain it
yes,
to
sir.
you. The Board of Aldermen has what they call, there are two types of public hearings.
Oh, okay.
One is all the meetings of the Board of Aldermen are open to the public. Anybody can come and view them.
Oh, well, I took off work to be here.
Let me finish. Not all are open for public testimony. That is a specific type of meeting. This particular meeting was not one for just public testimony.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can sit down.
However, since you're up here, we're not going to ask you to sit down.
Well, thank you. I would like to speak then. Thank you, sir.
But in the same token, I do have to make it...
I'm sorry.
In the same token, I do have to, as a chair, I do have to make it clear.
Yes, sir. If I'm out of order, I'm sorry. Right. I didn't know I took off work to be here.
I appreciate it.
And I want to, because Mr. Wilson see all these bricks, homes being demolished, and what you have is the brick masons that did this work years and years ago. You don't have that. You will never find that anymore. So that's why I'm very interested in getting to this program to redo these homes. And that's all I wanted. I'm sorry, brother. I don't know.
Not a problem.
Thank you, sir.
We appreciate it.
No, wait a minute. No, I have a question.
Now you open up a question. So now you got to come back. No. You have to come back now.
Yeah.
Because when you speak, the committee can ask questions.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry.
It's a double-edged sword.
Okay, no problem. I have no problem with swords.
So let me make sure I heard you clearly. You're the best brick mason in the city.
Yes, boy, you know that.
So that if we pass this resolution, or you
yes, sir.
Offer your services in a donation capacity to kind of help facilitate people rebuilding and stabilizing their homes, or if not, totally free, maybe for $1.
Well, Jeffrey Boyd, we all know that things need other things, and I am open.
We all need each other.
I'm open.
You're open?
I'm open.
Well, I'm glad the sponsor heard that you were open, so you could be part of that discussion to kind of help financially put a model together that can help people.
Yes, sir. We can get it done.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Anything we need.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, since we've got you, I think you got a question. How many people do you employ currently?
I'm in the union, and I still have my own company too. So every week, maybe 10 employees.
10 people through your company.
Through my company.
And on a given week, how many houses
do I go through?
Are you working on?
Maybe like in a week, maybe three a week.
Three houses a week with your crew of 10?
3 projects. So it lasts 5. Yeah.
So 3 to 5 a week
Yes, a
with
week,
your
yes,
10
sir.
with your 10 employees.
Yes, sir.
And this is sort of your side business because do you have a day job as well?
Yes,
Okay.
I do make sure.
So I mean, if we had more houses, I mean, obviously there's no shortage of houses that need work right now. But if we had new owners and folks with loans and willing to invest money in these houses, how many people do you think you could employ, and how many houses could you work on a week?
Oh, listen, I can employ, I have resources to employ at least 30 or more.
Great.
For us, side work for us, they call it the union. The
Yeah.
union do the side work. Weekend warriors. I'm the weekend warrior god.
Understood. That's what I was looking for. So you could really employ a lot more people.
Yes,
working
and
on a lot
also
more
not
houses.
only employ through the bricks, I can trade off with electricians and
Right.
I am plugged in that way to get the jobs done.
Perfect. Thank you
Yes,
very
sir.
much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I believe that's it. Thank you very much.
I like this.
We'll now bring the sponsor back up. Mr. Sponsor, have any closing words on your... You have one more? Okay, one other person. Please come forward and identify yourself.
Good morning. My name is Tony Stovall. Excuse me. I grew up in the 2100 part of Adelaide. I'm actually going through the process right now and purchasing my childhood home, 2109 East Adelaide, $4,000 with in the 21st Ward with John Muhammad. I'm one of those residents who moved out to Wentzville for a safer neighborhood, for a safer school district. But now I'm older. I'll be 25 on the 21st, and I'm realizing that we can't move away from our problems. There's some people, I go back down to the neighborhood and I see people who can't move out and don't have the luxury to just get out of the neighborhood. So I believe we do have to come back to our neighborhoods and build these neighborhoods up, which is why I'm working with John Muhammad, the alderman, to come back down here and restore the neighborhood and rebuild it, because if we quit putting the money into boarding up and forestry, we can come back and we can take care of our own communities, because my community that I grew up in, it has sentimental value, and I would love to see it come back up to par. I would love to raise my kids in my neighborhood and raise them in our school districts, because I don't think that we can just move away and that'll solve anything, because that doesn't do anything for North St. Louis. That doesn't do anything for the residents. I've been talking to plenty of people about this process that I'm going through, and numerous of people have offered to help me. Contractors that I met, I was at the Taste of Africa this weekend letting them know, they was like, oh, Tony, call me, I do contracting work, I can come in, we can help you gut it out. So it's plenty of people that's willing to help. I also go to the St. Louis Community College. I also know a lot of resources in my community in the North County area, because my mother lives in North County. And so many people are eager to help and restore, because like John Muhammad said, it's encouraging to be able to purchase a home for $1 and understand that I can be a homeowner. I don't have to continue to pay rent to landlords when I can purchase my own house, because if I can pay $850 a month, I can pay $850 making something that I'm working for, that's something that belongs to me, that I can pass down to generations and generations to come. So I really think that this program will be beneficial to not only North City, but to people overall that love the city, that love North City, and want to see their communities thrive and grow.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Sponsor? Would you get it? We need one of those. Oh, no problem. Now, you can make your closing remarks so we can take a vote.
I second everything she said.
Okay.
Again, this is the step that we can take to move our cities forward, to move our neighborhoods forward. Again, when you drive through North St. Louis, when you drive through South St. Louis, you see high vacancy. And if we can do something encouraging and something innovative to get people to buy these properties, rehab them, move back in the city, and redevelop our neighborhoods, then it's our responsibility to do it. So I'm asking the members of the committee to support this resolution, to support this plan as we continue to develop it, and to work with me in LRA as we try to do the best we can to rehab these vacant homes that we have. Okay. I have no further comments. Mr. Chairman.
With that, we can entertain a motion.
I move for adoption of Resolution 78.
Second.
That you pass recommendation.
Been moved and seconded that we adopt Resolution 78 with a do pass recommendation. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderman Vaccaro, Alderman Cone, Alderman Ornowitz, Alderwoman Hubbard, Alderman Kotar, Alderwoman Spencer, Alderman Muhammad, Alderwoman Boyd, Chairman Kennedy,
Aye.
President Reed. 6 ayes and no noes.
By your vote, we have sustained the motion of the President and have adopted Resolution 78 with a do pass recommendation. Once again, we thank everyone for coming and those who testified. We appreciate it. The best Mason on the planet. And with that, there's no other agenda items. The meeting is adjourned.
Thanks.